Greetings! Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal investigation. I am your host, Keith Johnson. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson.
Hi there.
And we are the founders of New England Anomalies Research, also known as N.E.A.R. And we've been pretty busy, so we'd like to say hello, studio audience. We're back. We're back from West Virginia. See?
ShadowCon.
ShadowCon. We were at ShadowCon, you see.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Some of the celebrity presenters, Keith Age, he wants you.
A rock and roll investigator himself.
Exactly. Robbie Thomas, Bill Scott, Shannon Sylvia, Patty Starr, our old friend Wheezy, Brian Hanwar, Dude Run, and Keith and Sandra Johnson, and Chris Dedman.
Chris Dedman actually wants to be on our show. We've got to arrange that somehow.
We must arrange that. We really must. And gee, there's so many to name, like the brothers Frick, John and Tim there, and cool guys, and so many.
Very
Well,
cool.
we'll get to them as shows progress. But Dave and everything who took so many wonderful pictures was the MC. Mm-hmm. So.
Had an interesting investigation at the Moundsville prison.
Oh yes, very interesting. And McLovin was the only one who really didn't want to experience anything, and our friend, and he got the prison door slamming in his face, the one person that doesn't want anything to happen, and so...
I think he got the nickname Mick Screamin', if I'm not
Yes, oh yeah,
mistaken.
he's known as Mick Screamin' now,
Mick Screamin'.
exactly. But, hi Mick Screamin'.
Hi, Sean.
Well, on to our show. We have a very interesting couple of guests with us tonight. We have Bree Pouliet of Para Boston, nearby to us, and we'd like to welcome you to our show.
Thank you.
And joining us, well, we have Mike Baker, New Gravity Media, our old friend. You've been on before, so thank you for rejoining us.
I
Thank you for
know
having
you.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, you know me. I saw you at a party once, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So you two have kind of teamed up together and done a lot of cases together and pooled your expertise, and so we want to hear about your exciting adventures.
Okay.
First of all, how did you first become involved in the paranormal, and how did Para Boston come into being?
Well, I actually got involved initially, personally, myself back in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
It was just something that was always an interest to me. So I started looking up historical cemeteries in the area of Rehoboth, because I grew up on the South Shore of Mass, and just started going to places and taking pictures and trying to capture EVPs, and it just was really fascinating to me. So over the years, after a while, actually this past September, I started checking out local ghost hunting groups in the area, something I wanted to get more involved with a group to be able to do more investigations, whether they were public or private. And I actually found Para Boston, and it's a great group of people. And Para Boston actually came together, I want to say, the previous April to that. Just a bunch of different people came together through an ad on Craigslist, of all things, from different occupations.
Good for something.
It is, it really is. Different occupations, and a lot of them were involved in different ghost hunting groups at the time, and for one reason or another just weren't satisfied the level of involvement that they had. So they just came together from this ad, and that I believe Scott had posted, Scott Trinito and Sal Pingatone are the two founders.
Okay.
And everybody else that came together initially formed the group, and it's just kind of evolved from there.
Just curious, do you still live in the Bridgewater Triangle?
I actually just recently moved out. I was living in Norton right up until June of this past year, so pretty much lived my whole life in there, from Attleboro, Norton area, even in Mansfield. Aside from the 4 years that I lived in northern Maine while I was in college, but yep, pretty much my whole life.
A lot of people coming out of that area interested in the paranormal.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Now, you met Lauren Coleman, right?
Yep.
And did you discuss the fact that you did live in the Bridgewater Triangle, right in the midst of it?
I actually didn't get a chance to speak with him a lot about that. Mostly it was just the presentation and just introduce myself. And but I did get involved with Christopher Balzano, who does a lot of work and has
friend of ours,
written
yes.
a couple books about the Bridgewater Triangle. And he and I had talked quite a bit before the Bridgewater Triangle book that he just recently had come out was released, and he included a lot of some of my experiences in that book and
Great.
before Para-Boston. And in the other book that he has out, I think it was How to Hunt Ghosts, I think was the title of that
Right.
one. There's a couple of photographs from one of the historic cemeteries in the Bridgewater Triangle that I took that he used in that book. So,
Oh,
but,
great.
it's definitely been an interesting ride.
What is your specific function within the Para-Boston group?
A lot of us actually, we don't really have like a treasurer or a secretary or anything like a formal group would, but pretty much we all kind of bring something different to the table. From whether it's different equipment that we have and expertise on equipment. I have some surveillance cameras that I had, and I have digital audio and have, familiarity with that. And I'm pretty good about, I'm fairly well outgoing and trying to talk to different people and being able to get involved with a lot of different things. And so I think in my scientific background actually has helped a lot with that too, because I work in a laboratory. So
Another
think that
Paula Donovan, huh?
Right. I was thinking that.
I think of that aspect of it is kind of where I excel, and there's a lot of other people that excel with, some of the different technologies, like the different EMF meters they're really familiar with, and things like that. So we all kind of work together and collaborate and just bring our different, things to the table. It works
Great.
out good.
So, tell us how you two teamed up and some experience you have working together.
Well, I do, aside from the filming that I've done in the past, I do a lot of work with a lot of local groups
Right.
based in dealing with technology and, different equipment that I've been working on, experimental equipment, things like that. And I have quite an arsenal built up. And I
Yeah,
started,
we know from your last visit here.
Yeah, and I was in a group called Boston Paranormal Investigators, where I met Scott Trinito, who went on to form Para-Boston. And we kind of hooked up and started working on some cases together. And I would bring the equipment that I had on the investigations and some of the software that I used to analyze evidence, and we started going from there. A lot of the places that we go are, we live in the same town, Scott and I, so it makes it very convenient. And out of all the groups that I work with, Para-Boston's probably the most frequent that I do work
Right,
with.
right. Now, we met you during your filming the documentary 14 Degrees.
Right.
Was this group also part of that documentary? You'll have to refresh my...
Para-Boston wasn't around when that was being filmed.
Oh, okay.
That was still, I am still a member of the Boston Paranormal as well, but I work with Para-Boston on a lot of their investigations because there's, it kind of spread the knowledge around and learn what you can from everybody that's doing work. I've never really committed specifically to one specific group. I'm more of an independent worker that helps out with other people, and it's
Sometimes that's a good advantage.
It is.
it is, yeah. I get to learn a lot, from different techniques and different aspects, and different people have access to different places that I might not get with one group where I can go in with another, and I can spread that knowledge, sort of cross-pollination, you might say, and it helps out a lot.
And Bree, we met you at a class in Boston,
Yep.
Adult Education Center,
Yep.
put on by New England Paranormal. And that's the thing about New England. Most paranormal investigators, everybody knows everybody in some way, and other parts of the country, it's not really like that. It's much more spread out.
Right.
And that's why we, rely on conventions like this to meet and greet and network with people and everything. So.
That's true. They're a great way to network and meet a lot of people all at one time. And, I imagine there's a lot of different groups that formed simply because of conventions. People
Right, right. I think we should do more in New England here.
I agree. Yeah, they have Ghost Stock coming up middle of April.
Patrick
in
Burns.
Salem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's on the 17th, I believe. So
Right.
it's a start.
Exactly.
Do you
I think it's
plan
a-
on attending?
Yeah, I'm going to be going. I don't know if I think this is the first time that they've been to Salem.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Patrick usually runs his convention down where he's located.
Yeah. So it's kind of exciting to have them in this area.
Right. So I understand you have brought some evidence with you.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we definitely want to get to that because the last person we had on, the last guest investigator, had a lot of evidence with him, and we actually weren't able to get through it all. We only have a half hour, so we'll get to that, and then if we have more time, maybe I'll even get to some questions. But could you kind of introduce us to what you're going to be showing and what the audience is going to...
Yeah. Well, the one that you're going to see now is a video clip. But this is an interesting video clip because the case specifically deals with a house that was in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Still is in Weymouth, Massachusetts. The family in the house claimed that they were seeing a shadow figure move from behind their barn around the side of their house, up the stairs, jiggle the doorknob fairly regularly, almost every day. So when we were in there investigating, I asked if I could leave my DVR system there for a week and leave it running the entire time. So it took a long time to go through 5 days of footage, 24 hours a day. It, took a while, but there was one piece that stood out, and I thought I had caught something, and it was shadow-like in nature. So what this clip is, it's a clip from camera 1 of the DVR system. It's only about 43 seconds long, but you're going to see something stand up from behind the car and move around, and then go right back down behind the car again.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, let's see that.
You think we can cue that up, control room?
For a shadow outside the window, and something that looks like a shadow stands up, you start to look at it. But we sat there debating it back and forth, and if we didn't see one specific item in the house, we'd probably still be wondering what the heck it is, because we tried to determine the size of this thing by if it was a reflection in the glass, they'd only have to be 3 inches tall. It's impossible. So, but we noticed during the walkthrough that there was a little glass container containing turtles. And they put the turtles on the table behind the camera that I had set up. And so now the turtles are up climbing against the glass, and the sun's shining in, reflecting on the turtles, and it looks like a shadow outside. So we were just as happy to find the answer to that as it was to find that it was a spirit or whatever. But it was, I was like, oh boy, because we were racking our brains.
Camera is this culprit.
Yeah, exactly.
What could it be,
Well, good call on your part, though.
Yes.
But I would never have guessed that was a turtle by looking at it.
No,
I
you wouldn't. Yeah, unless you've known there were turtles there, and then you can kind of
Yeah.
put the image in your head that it might be a turtle.
Imagine, though, if somebody just said, oh, wow, look, a shadow person, and just left it at that because it's so
That's right.
dramatic and exciting. And
Right, and that happens a lot, I've found.
right,
You know,
exactly.
People
In
don't
this
look
field,
a little.
exactly,
They got to dig
yeah.
a little deeper.
Yeah, so great call on your part.
Excellent
Really good guys.
bunking
Yeah, that
on
was
your
part of
parts.
And interesting to note that she claimed that she saw this figure every day, but we didn't catch it in all 5 days from 3 cameras.
Yeah.
Just
pointing.
turtles.
It was just turtles, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was seeing. Maybe she was seeing turtles. Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know.
We've had some other cases as well that we've been able to, come through and do a lot of debunking, which was, it's always kind of good to be able to bring that to someone's attention as well, because sometimes, you have clients that are almost, they're excited at the thought of possibly having a ghost in their house. And then on the other hand, you sometimes have people who absolutely don't want it, and
Right.
they're afraid. And so it's like
Right.
a relief if you can come in and give them some, normal answers to what they're experiencing.
Right.
And I think in one of these cases, it was probably, it was the Braintree investigation. It was a younger couple that lived in this apartment. It was an older apartment, and they had a lot of different claims of activity. So, we took note of all their claims, and we usually will go and do a walkthrough before we go in and do the actual investigation, just to kind of, as a combination of, go and see if, an investigation is warranted, and also it's like a second wave of meeting the clients and being able to kind of discuss it face to face. And also to kind of get an idea of the layout of the place and where you might want to put equipment, before you actually, because you have limited time for an investigation.
Right.
So only a small group of us went to do the walkthrough, and I mean, there was some things right off the bat that we were able to be like, well, this could explain this or that. One of their main claims that they had was the microwave seemed to be malfunctioning, and they were getting some weird error message on the microwave that she couldn't explain. And coming to this apartment, it was obviously a really old building that had, I think, some wiring issues.
Right, right.
Because the EMF meters and the voltage detectors that we had were, going off the charts, like from the second we walked through the door and put them up against the walls, and they were going crazy. And, obviously our first order of business was to inspect this microwave and see if, we could figure out what was going on. And when we moved the microwave, also one thing we noticed was there was mouse droppings behind the microwave, which indicates that there's mice in the apartment. And one of the other claims that they had was their cat was going crazy chasing something around the house. So that was right then to me like,
Well,
debunked.
this all fits together.
It's a classic.
I guess it was a blessing that you did come to intervene,
Yeah, so I mean, I think it ultimately put them at ease to know that there was some normal answers to what they were experiencing, and that it, wasn't necessarily the paranormal. So I think in their case, that was a good situation for them.
Before a situation like that became worse, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Progressively.
Well, she thought that the microwave was trying to say something to her because it was spelling these letters out
Right.
on the
Right.
screen. But it was,
I've heard that, computers will spell messages that seem rather bizarre.
It was saying F-E and then an O, but it turns out that code was that the keypad was shorted when you look at the
Okay.
manual for the...
And did they actually have the manual?
No, I looked
we
it up.
had to,
Oh, you
yeah,
looked
we
it
had
up.
to
Yeah,
get
we
that.
got the model of the microwave and looked it up to
Right.
find out if there was an error code.
Thorough.
Well, sometimes too, though, it brings us into another piece of our evidence here, is that place that we had the camera set up with the shadow that we were able to debunk, we did get some of the best evidence that we've got in that house as well. And this was during an EVP session. The next clip is an EVP. It's a sound file. We were all in a room upstairs conducting the EVP session. The rule is either get out of the house or stay in the room with us and be very, very quiet. Don't wander around the house during EVP session.
Easier said than done most
Easier,
of the time.
yeah.
Right. And
But
also to tag, if you have to cough, you have to say cough.
Right.
So
You know,
it's
stomach
tagged.
growl or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So we were up there, and Scott decided during one of the breaks of the EVP session that he wanted to go outside. So he walked downstairs and he put his recorder on the dining table, and he went outside to stand with the family who was out near the street standing by their car during this whole thing. And later in the night, we got two EVPs. We got one where a woman actually spoke in response to the question, "What is your name?" And she said, "Leslie Moulton." And we found out that the Moulton family lived 2 houses down in the 1850s. So that was very interesting. The next one was actually the one you're going to hear. The Leslie Moulton, you'd need headphones to be able to hear it. It's not cleaned up, but it's very clear. But we can't really play it here because you wouldn't be able to hear it well over the TV. This one you can hear very well. I can attest, I was there, and everybody there can attest that there were absolutely no children there that night. Absolutely. But on this EVP, you can actually hear a child talking with his mother, a conversation going on. And the child has an English accent.
Oh.
and it's very clear. And the first thing that he says, I do phonetic analysis of the EVPs to determine what vowels are being said, and that's how we determine what is being said. And I can determine accent and dialect with this phonetic analysis software. It appears that the very first thing that he says is, "Mama, I'm watching." But you can hear the mother talking, and you can actually hear behind that the person upstairs conducting the EVP session. And it was very quiet in the house. Everybody was listening for the slightest little sound. And this would have drowned out anybody talking because it's very loud. But yet, you can even hear the crickets outside on the recording, but this voice is just so loud and prominent.
Well, and what kind of equipment were you using?
One of these was, in fact, one of these was my Dane box, which is a digital audio intensity monitor, which I mentioned on when I was on your show last about how it detects the
That was
direction.
one of my questions. Were you
Yeah.
going to reveal the newest?
I'm
gadget?
actually, I've done a little bit of an upgrade to it, and because I found a better way of doing what I was doing, so it's actually still coming. You'll end up seeing it when I do.
Great.
It will come back on and give a demonstration. of it.
Fantastic, yes.
Excellent.
But we were using a first incarnation of this device, and we were using a Faraday cage, which
Yep.
the Leslie Moulton EVP was caught in a Faraday cage, so we can eliminate some radio frequencies as the cause. And the equipment was the one that we caught this EVP on was a regular digital Olympus digital recorder. The one upstairs was we had a bunch of them. We had Sonys, we had other Olympus recorders.
And can you just describe for our audience, the ones that didn't see the episode with you on the last time, exactly what a Faraday cage is and how you
Sure.
use it?
Faraday cage, frequencies are specific wavelengths. And in order to block them out, you need something conductive. Michael Faraday in 1850 determined that electricity and electromagnetism travels on the surface of a conductor. It's called the skin effect. So if you create a box or a cube made out of a conductive material, it's going to block those frequencies from passing through it. And we use that to make sure that we're not getting stray radio frequencies being recorded in our digital recorders, because it blocks out all those particular frequencies. And the box that we were using was so defined that it would block out the highest cell phone signal or recorded cordless phone signal, and which is way more than we happen to need, because digital phones and cordless phones are scrambled anyway. So even if it did pick up, you'd get nothing but gibberish. But I want to block that out anyway. But it was
Sounds like some other communication devices we know of, that
Yes.
comes like very scrambled and everything
well,
like
cell
that.
phones
and-
are scrambled.
Right.
They use what's called spread spectrum, where it
Yeah.
uses part of two frequencies to transmit.
Right,
And so if you were to be able to pick it up on a radio, you wouldn't be able to understand it.
right.
Yeah.
Or you'd matrix something out of it.
That's right. Yeah.
that
Well,
you
there's always
understand.
that. Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's listen to the EVP then. So-
Okay. And we got another EVP, which I think is an EVP, but it's too faint to actually make out words. But doing the frequency analysis, it's actually in the exact same frequency range as the Leslie Moulton EVP. So we may have got another one on the second time around.
So what's the client's take on all of this? Are they comfortable with what's going on now that you've
That
been able to
particular-
establish that there is something actually there? Or?
Yeah, that particular family, they've, in their mind, were pretty convinced for a number of years that they had paranormal activity in the house.
And were they just
I think
looking
to
for
them-
validation?
Yeah, I think they were looking for validation because they've never been threatened by it. They're very comfortable with it, and I think that for them, they wanted someone to come in and try to capture what they've been experiencing, and I think they're pretty excited about it. because it's never been anything threatening or anything like that. So, you know, to them, they're pretty excited, any of the feedback that we give them on that. Some of the other clients that we've had, some of them have seemed relieved when we've come back and said, you know, we didn't find anything, and some of them were disappointed, but
Right.
that's to be expected.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
because you got to figure probably, you know, at least 8 or 9 cases out of 10, you know, you're not going to find anything at all. I mean, it's such the odds of actually finding genuine paranormal activity and being able to validate that is,
Right.
it's rare. So.
We only have a few minutes left, so if you've got your questions, ask them now.
Well, let's see what I have. You actually, I hear, had a client that seemed to be setting off the activity. She seemed to be the catalyst, and
Yep.
and I guess you were involved with that case as well.
Yeah, I was there in the walkthrough. When I do a walkthrough, I bring a lot of EMF meters and magnetometers and all kinds of electrical field sensors, and I set them up while we're doing the walkthrough. And I also record their audio and put them through a voice stress analyzer to see if they may be pulling my leg. Well, it's the interview itself went really well, and what their claim was that the phenomena started during the height of their arguments, their family arguments. So she was explaining one particular instance, reenacting kind of the argument, and the EMF meter shot up to like 20 or 22, and it was really high. It stayed
That's
that way
interesting.
until she was done with the conversation that caused the phenomenon. So that warranted for us to go back there and do an investigation.
Definitely.
During the investigation, we found a heating pad on the chair that she was switching off and on to create that. We tried it, and we get the, it created the high electrical magnetic field and was causing that. So we didn't see it. There was a blanket or something over when she was sitting on it when we were there originally, but kind of interesting. So we found that, and we're able to debunk that right there. But she was one of those people that really wanted her house to be haunted.
Right,
right.
She practiced
Go back there
Wicca
in a
for
power
lot of
outage, yeah.
years. And
Yeah, there was a lot of occult books and
Right,
stuff
yeah.
like that, and she definitely, seemed pretty disappointed, I think, that we didn't
Right.
capture anything. And, you know, we gave it our best. I mean, we went in there and we set surveillance cameras up all over the house, infrared cameras. In one of the rooms, they had a claim of an apparition that would sit in a rocking chair or pass by this rocking chair in one of the children's bedrooms on the upper level. And so what we did was we took one of the K2 meters and sat it directly on the rocking chair and then trained an infrared camera directly onto that. So in the view of the camera, you can not only see the room with the rocking chair, but you can plainly see the K2 meter, and if there was any fluctuations, the camera would have captured that as well. And we, took turns doing rounds going through, and, each of us sitting with digital audio recorders in there as well as, digital EMF in hand. So with everything, we would have been able to capture that.
Wow. Well, believe it or not, we're out of time already. It seems like we're just getting started,
I know.
yeah.
But we'll have you both back on again.
Great.
Very much
That'd
look
be
forward
great.
to it. And I want to thank you both for bringing some sense into the world of paranormal investigation.
Thank you.
Best we can. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you. And thank you, studio audience. God bless. Until next time.
Good night.
You can chat about it.